Welcome to Finding Holiness, where we delve into timeless Torah wisdom, revealing the sacred in everyday moments. Join us on a journey to elevate your spirituality and discover holiness in every aspect of life. I'm your host, Rabbi David Kadosh, and together, let's embark on a path of spiritual exploration. I hope you enjoy this next episode. Okay, so Erev Tov, everybody. Welcome to the first of our Back to Basics class. I wanna say why I had this in mind. Because sometimes we're so into hearing new ideas, which is great. Some novelties, some chidushim, and going to the depths of the Torah, and a lot of that we speak about in the other shiurim that we have on Mondays and Thursdays. That often we forget that there's the basics. There's the basics of what I need to do. Hence the Shulhan Aruch. What does the Torah talk about? Just a basic story and Rashi, and of course the Gemara. So I felt that we had a young group of guys that are on their way, I'm hoping, and a young group of guys that wanted to get back into it, and I offered them this idea of a three-part class that will take a bit over an hour, but because each section isn't an hour long, so it's shorter, then the engagement level will be high. That's the idea. That's the hope. So again, for those joining us now online, for those listening on a recording on our podcast, Finding Holiness, first of all, thank you for listening, and second of all, what you're going to need for this Back to Basics class is a Chumash with Rashi. We called it Tanakh with Rashi because the goal is to finish the Chumash and then move on into other parts of our of Scripture. You're going to need a Shulhan Aruch with Mishnah Berurah, because Mishnah Berurah is arguably the most widely used commentary on Shulchan Aruch. And lastly, you're going to need a Gemara Masechet Berachot. The order on how we're going to do it is we are going to save the Gemara for last. And the reason is because the Gemara is probably the hardest subject in terms of finding an end point. Sometimes you're in the middle of a discussion and you kind of need to finish that discussion. At least when it comes with regard to the Torah, with the Chumash and the Halacha, we can stop at a certain Halacha, we can stop at a certain Pasuk and just pick off next week where we left off. So the order will be Chumash, then we'll do the Shulchan Aruch. I believe it was, what did I put, 20 minutes each, 25 minutes each roughly for those two, and then 30 minutes for the Gemara at the end. So again, thank you everybody for joining. And without further ado, we are going to begin with Sefer Bereshit, Perek Aleph, the first Perek and the first Pasuk, B'simana Tava. Bereshit bara Elohim et hashamayim ve'et haaretz. In the beginning, when Hashem created the heavens and the earth, ve'haaretz hayta tohu vavohu, the land was null and void, ve'choshech al penei tehom, and darkness was spread over the surface of the deep. Beruach Elohim merachefet al penei hamayim, the spirit of Elohim was hovering over the water. Again, we're going to see a lot of what this means in Rashi, but let's just finish the first day parasha. Vayomer Elohim yehi or. Elohim said, "Let there be light." Vahi or, and there was light. Vayar Elohim et haor ki tov, and Elohim saw that the light was good. Vayavdel Elohim ben haor ben hachoshech, and Elohim separated between the or, the light, and the darkness. Vayikra Elohim laor yom, and Elohim called the day, the light day, v'lachoshech kara layla, and darkness he called night. Vahi erev vahi boker yom ehad, and it was evening and it was morning, one day. Okay, so this is the opening parasha of the Chumash, of all of our Tanakh, obviously dealing with the creation of the earth. So let's look at Rashi. We will mainly, almost always, only do Rashi, and I hope to do all of them. But let me give a little introduction about Rashi's purpose. Rashi's purpose in his commentary is simply to tell you the pshat of the text, to tell you what the pasuk means. Sometimes that means he'll give you a straight up translation. Sometimes he'll direct us to Unkelus. Sometimes he'll even bring us a midrash, a crazy midrash with a story or whatever it is. Even when he brings us to crazy midrash, the purpose of it is to tell us what the pshat is because he couldn't find any other way to interpret the pasuk. Hence he's bringing us a midrash. And always understand that when Rashi tells us something, something's bothering him. In fact, they created a set of books called What's Bothering Rashi, right? For us to help us understand exactly what the issue of Rashi has. So with that little introduction, lots more to say about Rashi being the prime commentator on the Chumash. With that, we can begin with his opening perush on the word Bereshit. So if you have a Chumash, you can find Rashi's text at the bottom of the Chumash. So Bereshit Amar Rabbi Yitzchak. Thank you very much. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam shekodim bro. Amar Rabbi Yitzchak. Said Rabbi Yitzchak. Who is Rabbi Yitzchak? Just Rabbi Yitzchak is actually his father. Rashi stands for Rav Shlomo Yitzchaki. Rav Shlomo, the son of Yitzchak. And this Rabbi Yitzchak that he's quoting is actually his father. Chachamim tell us that Rashi wanted to honor his father by mentioning his name first in his first ever commentary. It's a tribute to his father. Obviously, you know what the parents do, the upbringing of the child, all the decisions, the hard decisions that were made for Rashi as a young child to send him to yeshiva. He owes a debt of gratitude to his parents. Definitely his father probably taught him. And therefore, he wants to begin his perush by mentioning his father. Amar Rabbi Yitzchak, Lo haya sarich le'atchil et haTorah ela me'achodesh hazeh lachem. The Torah should have only began with the first mitzvah, which is a mitzvah of Kiddush HaChodesh, HaChodesh hazeh lachem, which is found in Parashat Bo. So Rabbi Yitzchak, his father, is saying, we shouldn't have began the Torah like this. Really, it should have been the first mitzvah. Shehi mitzvah rishona shenitztavu Yisrael, because this is the first mitzvah that the Jewish people have been commanded. What is the Torah about? The Torah is only about the mitzvot that we keep and the way we live our life representing the Torah. That's what it's about. So if that's the case, begin with the first mitzvah. That would have made most sense. So he asks, Umat ta'am patach bebereshit? What is the reason why the Torah began with the word Bereshit, or the sequence of events in the creation of the world? So he answers, Mishum, because of the pasuk, Koach ma'asav higid le'amo, latet lahem nahalat goyim. Pasuk that in Tehillim, Koach ma'asav higid le'amo, the strength of his actions he will tell his nation, latet lahem nahalat goyim, to provide for them the inheritance of the nations. Meaning what? She'im yomru umot ha'olam le'Yisrael, if the nations of the world will tell the Jewish people in the future, listimatem, you are thieves, you are robbers. Shekevashtem artzot shiv'a goyim, you came here and you captured the land that belonged to the seven nations that dwelled in the land of Israel before you even came. So you come in here and you overtake them and you conquer the land. It's not right. So what will the Jews answer in response? Pretty good claim, right? We were here first. So what would they answer in response? Hem omrim lahem kol haaretz shel HaKadosh Baruch Hu. The entire world, the entire earth belongs to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Hu bera'ah, he created it. Untana la'asher yashar be'ainav. And he gave it to those who are straight, yashar be'enav, who are proper, who are worthy. Chachamim want to learn from here that if the Jewish people are not worthy, the Jewish people act corruptly, okay, or are not straight in the way they deal with other human beings, and they're not zochet to the land of Israel, they're not right? The land only went to those who are yashar be'anav, who are worthy individuals. And that is Am Yisrael. Birtzono netana lahem, u'birtzono netala mehem, untana lanu. With his will, he gave it to the nations. Ubirtzono netala mehem, and also with his will, he took it from them. Untana lanu, and he gave it to us. And that, therefore, since the whole earth belongs to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, he chose to give it to us. This is our land, and therefore you can come and lay claim to it as well. Okay, so that is the opening Rashi that he quotes from his father Rabbi Yitzchak. Moving on to the next Rashi, Bereshit bara. Bereshit bara.
Try using that at the UN.
Yeah, that's right. You should quote Rashi in the UN. That's right. Bereshit bara. En hamikra hazeh omer ela darshuni. This pasuk is begging us, Rashi says, to be expounded, because translating it straight up doesn't make sense. In the beginning, bara, it was Elohim created. Bereshit, at first, beginning created, a lot of things doesn't make sense, the order, the sequence of the words. Kemoshe darshu rabotenu, like the rabbis were expounded, bishvil haTorah shenikret reshit darko. Again, the problem is that we know one of the issues that Rashi is coming to address is that the Torah basically opened up with this statement that in the beginning Hashem created the heavens and the earth. But we know later on that the water was already there. Veruach Elokim menachefet al penei hamayim. That's what the pasuk actually tells us in pasuk bet. So something doesn't make sense. How can you tell me in the beginning they created the heavens and the earth? That must have been the first thing, right? That's what we assume. But at the same time, Veruach Elokim menachefet al penei hamayim. So that's why Rashi says this pasuk is begging to be expounded. We need to figure this out. So he says, Bishvil Torah shenikret Reshit Darko, for the purpose of the Torah, which is called the Reshit Darko, the foremost of its path, Ubishvil Israel shenikreu Reshit Tevuato, and for the purpose of Israel, who is also referred to as Reshit. So the Torah and Israel, the Torah existed before the creation of the world. Okay, that was the blueprint. You've heard that statement that HaKadosh Baruch Hu looked into the Torah, and through the Torah He created the world. That's what's Bereshit, the Reshit that came prior to the creation of the actual physical world, for the purpose of Israel to come, and who's also called the Reshit, to come and keep the Torah. Ve'im bata leforsho kipshuto. And it says, therefore, if you want to explain this first pasuk, Rashi is telling us how to translate this pasuk. If you want to translate this pasuk properly, kach parsheu, this is how you should translate it. Bereshit beriat shamayim va'aretz. In the beginning, when the heavens and earth, were created, not in the beginning God created the heavens and earth. That's not how you translate it, because that's not true. It's not true that heaven and earth were created at first. So Rashi is telling you how to translate it. Bereshit beriyat shamayim haaretz. In the beginning, when the heavens and earth were created, v'haita haaretz tohu vavohu, and the world, the whole universe was just void and null of nothing, filled with nothingness. Vayomer Elokim yehi or. HaKadosh Baruch Hu said, "Let there shall be light." Okay, so Rashi actually here is telling us that the key component to the start of the creation was this creation of light. That's the whole purpose of day one, was the creation of light. In the beginning, when the heaven and the earth were created, Vayomer Elokim yehi or. That's what he's hinting. Velo ba hamikra. The pasuk is not coming lehorot seder haberiyah, to teach us the order of creation. Lomar she'elu kadmu. This one came first. She'im ba lehorot kach. If that's indeed the purpose of the pasuk, hayalo lichtov barishona bara et hashamayim. That's how the Torah should have began. It should have began with barishona. At first, bara et hashamayim. He created the heavens. She'en lecha reshit bamikra she'eno davuk lateva sheleacharav. Rashi is telling us a rule. Whenever you see the word reshit anywhere in Chumash, you will always find it directly connected to the word that comes afterwards. Okay? Bereshit, Bereshit Mamlechet Yehoyakim, in the beginning of the kingdom of Yehoyakim. Reshit mamlachto, again, another pasuk. Reshit mamlachto, the beginning of his kingdom. Reshit ganecha, the beginning, the first of your crops. So we always see the Bereshit, it's always connected to the word that comes afterwards. Afkan ata omer Bereshit bara Elokim. So too here you will also say Bereshit bara Elokim, kemo Bereshit bero, in the beginning when he created. Vedome lo, and this is similar to Techilat diber Hashem beHosea. In the beginning Hashem spoke with Hosea. He's just giving more examples. Kelomar Techilat diburo shel HaKadosh Baruch Hu beHosea. At the beginning when God spoke to Hosea, Vayomer Hashem el Hosea. Okay. So right now we have this general rule that Bereshit is not coming to mean the first thing that he did, because if that was the case, he would have said Barishona. And Bereshit is always connected to the next word. So in the beginning of the creation of the heavens and earth. So now, Rashi asks, Ve'im Tomar, general rule whenever you see the commentary of Rashi or Tosafot, or many other mefarshim in Chumash or Talmud. Ve'im tomar literally means and if you will say, but ve'im tomar always signifies a question. Ve'im tomar, and if you're going to say, question, lehorot ba, this came to teach me, she'elu techila nivreu, uperusho bereshit hakol bara elu. Maybe you mean to say that yes, that was what was first. It was the heavens and the earth was created first. And we have many pesukim that are just shortened, very short versions, abbreviated verses in Tanakh that kind of put a lot of information into short. And maybe really the Torah did mean to tell us that Bereshit, that in the beginning it was the heaven and earth that was created first. And he gives examples of some pesukim that are shortened. Kemo ki lo sagar dalte bitni. He didn't close the doors of my beten, my stomach. Velo peresh mi asoger. The Torah the pasuk doesn't tell us who's the one who closed. Ukmo yisa'ed chel Damesek, or the pasuk that says carry the wealth of Damascus. Velo peresh mi yisa'enu, and the pasuk doesn't tell us who was the one who was carrying it. Ukmo im yacharos babekarim. Would he plow with the cattle? So we see a lot of shortened psukim. Velo peresh im yacharosh adam babekarim. It didn't explain if he was to plow with the cattle. Okay, what would happen? Uchmo magid mereshit acharit. The pasuk he will tell over from the beginning acharit afterwards. Velo peresh magid mereshit davar acharit davar. He would tell. He didn't really explain or elaborate what was going to take place. So we're going to see, maybe we have these pesukim. We have these pesukim that speak to us in code. They tell us very short in version. So now Rashi's saying, you might come to say that's what the pasuk is saying over here too. That we have the shortened version, but really in the beginning it was HaKadosh Baruch Hu created the heavens and the earth, and that was the first thing he created. So then he says, can't be. Im ken, if that's the case, temal atzmecha, then you should wonder, she'arei hamayim kadmu. We know that the water came before the heaven and the earth. She'arei ketiv, the pasuk writes, veruach Elohim merachefet al penei hamayim, that a spirit of God, and we're going to see what this means according to Rashi, hovered over the water. Where was the water? God, the story of creation didn't mention anything about water, and yet we're mentioning water. How can that be? V'adayin lo gilah hamikra beriyat hamayim matai hayta. The Torah didn't reveal to us the creation of water when that was. Halamata, it must be shekadmu hamayim la'aretz. Water preceded the earth. And the Torah does not tell us when water was created. We hear about the separation of waters in day 2. We hear about the gathering of waters in day 3. Okay? But we don't find when God created the waters. It must be prior to the aretz. The heavens, when we say Bereshit bara Elokim et hashamayim, the shamayim is from esh and mayim. It's a combination of fire and water. Therefore, Rashi says right away, our description of events here have nothing to do with the chronological order of how things were created and in the order. It's not that way. Proof in the pudding is mayim, water. Water was there prior to the heavens and earth. Last Rashi on the pasuk Aleph, bara Elohim. So Rashi says, "Velo amar bara Adonai." The name of Hashem Yud Kei Vav Kei is not used. It's Elohim is used. Why is Elohim used? Famous Rashi that we gave a shiur a couple of weeks ago on this. In the beginning, God wanted to create the world with the midah of din, with the midah of strict justice. Right? That the moment you do something bad, boom, punishment. That's the way He intended the world to be created. Again, we gave a whole perush on what this meant. But He saw that the world could not survive this way. So what did He do? He put the trait of mercy, midat rachamim, in front of that of midat adin, and He combined it, the two of them. This is what's written later. Beyom asot Adonai Elohim eretz v'shamayim. When the Torah repeats the count of God creating the heaven and the earth, He talks about the creation of Hashem Elohim, both names, the name of mercy and the name of justice together, and that's how the world is run today. But when He originally created, and on that first day, it was only Bereshit bara Elohim. It was that of Elohim. Okay, in a promise to keep to our time, all right, we've actually reached already 20 odd minutes just in our first thing. So we'll pause here, and we're gonna make a note, and we're gonna move on to our Shulhan Aruch. So again, Shulhan Aruch, for those following online, in the chat you will have a link to the second link is that of Sefaria. There you will find the Shulhan Aruch with the Mishnah Berurah commentary. And we're starting from Siman Aleph. It's the first halacha in our Shulhan Aruch. Shulhan Aruch Rabbi Yosef Karo. This is the code of law accepted by all Jews across the world. Siman Aleph Din Hashkamat HaBoker. The law of waking up in the morning. Ubotet Sa'ifim. And there are 9 Sa'ifim, 9 branches or 9 laws. Says we'll read the entire first halacha, including the Ramah, and then we'll look at the Mishnah Berurah. Yikaber ka'ari la'amod baboker la'avodat bor'o. A person should wake up like a lion. He should strengthen himself like a lion when he wakes up in the morning, la'avodat bor'o, to serve God. Sheyehehu me'orer hashachar. He should be the one waking up the morning. It's like, I am in charge over here. In fact, this is all Shulchan Aruch says, all Maran says in the first Se'if. The rest is the Ramah. So and what the Ramah says here is beautiful. Also, very big life lesson he gives us here. Ve'akol panim lo yacher zman ha'tefillah. Listen, if you can't get up that early, whatever you do, don't delay the time for tefillah. She'atzibur mitpalelin. That the tzibur is praying. Then he says, Shiviti Adonai lenegdi tamid. I place Hashem in front of me always. Hu klal gadol b'Torah. This is an essential rule in the Torah. Uv ma'alot tzadikim, and the greatness of the tzadikim asher holchim lifnei Elohim, who constantly walk in the ways of God, constantly having Hashem in front of him. Ki shiviti Hashem lenegdi tamid. Ki en yeshivat ha'adam utnuotav asakav vehu levado bebeito. Because a person's actions, a person's behaviors, the way a person lives life while he's in his home is not the same as his ways when he's in front of a great king. And the way that a person speaks with his family and his friends and his boss and his work and his colleagues is not the same that you would speak when you're sitting one-on-one with the king. When that king is God. When you're sitting in front of king of a country, you're sitting in fear and you're talking so carefully not to mess up any word and be fluent and clear and direct. All the more so when you're dealing with HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Asher melo kol haaretz kevodo omed alav veroeh b'ma'asav, who fills the entire earth with His honor and His greatness, and He sees all of our actions. Kemo shene'emar, like the pasuk says, Im yisater ish b'mistarim v'ani lo erenu neum Hashem. If man will hide in the corners, ani lo erenu, and I will not see him, neum Hashem, so said God. God sees everybody. Miad yagia elav ha'yir'ah ve'ha'hachna'a בפחד השם יתברך ובושתו ממנו תמיד. By doing so, when a person fulfills the idea, the concept of Shiviti Hashem lenegdi tamid, then he brings upon himself this level of fear, this level of humility, and pachad, also a higher level of frightened. You're scared of God, ubosto mimenu tamid, and you're constantly living in His shadow on like how you're almost embarrassed in the way that you act, if you act in proper ways, being bashful. V'lo yitbayesh mipnei bnei adam. Then the Ramah says something unbelievable here. A lot of people don't know this halacha, what he says here. A person should not be embarrassed of other people. Hamal'igim alav b'avodat Hashem yitbarach, who are making fun of him. The Ramah is predicting that if you live a life of Shiviti Hashem Negdi Tamid, people are going to poke fun at you. Look at that crazy guy. Look at that crazy religious Jew. Look what he does. Crazy over there. He covers himself with a talit. What is that cloth he wears? What are those strings that he's hanging from his body? Wears those boxes on his head. These guys are nuts. He's predicting this is what's going to happen. Velo yitbayesh, says the Ramah. Don't be embarrassed. Gam behatzne alechet uvshochbo amishkavo, even when private quarters and when you're lying in bed, yeda lifne mihu shochev, you should know who you are lying down in front of. Yes, even when you're sleeping, HaKadosh Baruch Hu's on top of you. Umiyad sheyeor mishenato, and the moment you wake up in the morning, yakum bizrizut, you wake up with zeal, ready to go, ready to work. La'avodat boro yitparach ve'yitaleh, to serve HaKadosh Baruch Hu. So this is the first halacha of Shulhan Aruch. Let us go into the Mishnah Berurah. So Mishnah Berurah was written by the Chafetz Chaim. It is his most famous and widely read work. Probably he wrote quite a few svarim, known for Shmirat HaLashon, obviously his halachot on Lashon Hara. Very much. That's why it's called Chafetz Chaim. But the work on the Mishnah Berurah, what can we say? It is diamonds. Diamonds studied by all Jews, Sfaradim, Ashkenazim. How many different versions of Mishnah Berurah have come out, expanding on the work of the Chafetz Chaim over here. And the way he works is that he'll put a siman next to a letter. He'll start with Aleph. Aleph is the first thing that he sees. Aleph in capital Aleph, not Rashi script, in brackets, and that's the term or word that he's going to explain. So he says, the first thing that Shulchan Aruch says that he wants to explain is that we wake up in the morning like a lion, la'avodat borot, to serve God. And he says, ki lechach nivra ha'adam. This is the reason why man was created. Kemo she'amar HaKatuv, like the pasuk says, kol nikra bishmi v'lichvodi berativ. Anyone who calls my name and for my honor, that's who he created. I created him. Ve'af im yashienu yitzro b'choref. And let's say a person's Yetzer Hara is going to take control in the wintertime. Lomar, and that the Yetzer Hara is really enticing him not to get up. Stay in your bed. The guy's going to say, Lomar, ech ta'amod baboker ki hakor gadol. How am I going to wake up? It's too cold. O yashienu b'kayitz. Or he's going in the summertime. Lomar, ech ta'amod mimitatecha. How can you get up from your bed? Adayin lo savata mishenatecha. You didn't even sleep. Because the summer nights are very short. So, what do you have? 4 hours of sleep, 5 hours of sleep? Stay in bed a little bit more. That's why he says, Yitkaber alav ve'al yishmalu. This is why Shulchan Aruch used the term, strengthen yourself like a lion. You have to really, it takes a lot of effort in the morning to get up. Whether it's in the winter because you're tucked under the covers, or in the summer because you didn't have enough sleep. Don't listen to Yeshua. V'yachshov benafsho. He should say to himself, if I had to wake up and meet the king or the prime minister, I would get up very early, 2 hours before my meeting. I'd take a shower, I'd shave, I'd put on the cologne, you name it. I'm going to have to look perfect. All the more so, double kal v'chomer, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, in front of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, where we have to prepare ourselves to meet Him. Okay. Then he says, Shehu me'orer hashachar, bishla katav sod. The Shulhan Aruch writes a deep idea here. Lechaber yom v'layla b'torah u'bitfila, or bitfila. We need to connect the day and the night with either Torah study or tefillah. Hen ba'boker, hen ba'erev. And that is both in the night, in the daytime, when we're getting up, and at night. Umiyad k'sheyitorer mishenato. When a person wakes up in the morning, ve'eno rotzeh lishon, and he doesn't want to sleep anymore, yitol yadav, he should wash his hands, af shenishar mushkav, even when he is still lying down, if he's able to wash his hands. Umikol sheken, shelo yelech 4 amot beli netilat yadayim. A person should not walk 2 meters, that's 4 amot, 4 arms length, without washing his hands. And you have to be very careful to make sure you wash your hands right away. Ubezohar HaKadosh, he quotes the Zohar, Maflig avur zeh be'onsho me'od, ki hu masheh al atzmo ruach tumah. He says a person who delays this, he's bringing upon himself, unfortunately some punishment, because you're walking around with this impure ruach. The reason we wash our hands in the morning is because we have a ruach tumah that comes upon us when we overnight while we're sleeping, and we're just strolling around the house doing things, touching objects with this negative, evil ruach. We got to wash our hands. So if you don't wash your hands, not good, says the Zohar. But nevertheless, halila, to go transgress any isur because of lacking of washing hands. For example, a person who says, okay, he really needs to urinate, okay, and he prevents himself from urinating because he can't find water, okay, that's a big problem. Oh, it's actually a lav. You're not supposed to do that. It's detrimental to your body. Or a person who took water from his friend prepared water, and you took the water. You stole the water from him. Now miskin, he doesn't have water. Obviously, we're talking at a time where water was a little bit more scarce than it is today. Unless you know for sure that you will replace the water that you took from your friends. There are people that actually stumble upon this. If it happens to be that the water for netilat yadayim, and again we're going to talk more in depth about this when you see the laws, but if the waters of netilat yadayim are distant, not close to him, and no one can bring him the water, those who worry about their nefesh, they just walk slowly, less than 2 meters at a time. They take a few steps, they stop. They take a few steps, they stop, until they get to the water. The Sha'ar Teshuvah writes upon this. He argues. He said, what are you doing over here? You have this evil, negative force on you, and you're walking slowly? What are you doing? Go run to the water, no matter how far it is. You got to go find the water. So he disagrees with the walking slowly shita. And then the Mishnah Berurah brings his famous perush that he says the whole house is like 4 amot. So if you have to walk downstairs to the kitchen to wash your hands, it's all considered in an area of your 4 amot, your 2 meters. You should only rely on this if you have no other option. If it happens that he wakes up in the night and he doesn't have water to wash his hands 3 times to get rid of this negative ruach tumah, a person cannot neglect Torah study, which is what we're starting the day with. So what should a person do? Just either wash his hands a little bit, enough just to wash his fingers, or look what he says. If you don't have water to wash your hands in the morning, it doesn't mean you can't learn Torah. Take your hands, either take a little water or rub your hands on something. That's good enough to get rid of the tum'ah on your hands. And then you can go ahead, say the bracha of Birkat Torah, and then you can go study. Kedina Talmud v'Aposkim. Okay? Are we doing on time? We got about 5 more minutes. Okay. Then the Rama says, whatever you do, don't miss tefillah betzibur. So don't miss tefillah betzibur. שהציבור מתפללים. היינו, אף על פי שלא יעבור זמן תפילה, even though the time for tefillah won't pass, מכל מקום מצווה עם הציבור. There's a mitzvah to pray with the tzibur. In fact, in his book, Shmirat HaLashon, the Mishnah Berurah lists quite a few reasons why praying with a minyan is so much better than praying by yourself. Number one, you get schar pesiot. You get reward for walking to shul or driving to shul. Even driving to shul is a reward. Number two, you're zocheh penei shechina. You get to accept HaKadosh Baruch Hu's holy presence. Number three, you cause other people to pray with a minyan. You're part of the minyan. That means everybody else is part of the minyan too. In fact, people see you, okay, and may want to come and join a minyan as well. Another reason, the tefillot are brought to a higher level when you pray with a minyan. The Chachamim say that Hashem will always listen. He'll never turn away a tefillah, pray with a minyan. There's a reward in this world. Ochel pirotem ba'olam hazeh. Chachamim say, praying with a minyan, tefillah b'tzibur. Arichut yamim, long life. Et ratzon. It's an auspicious time. And of course, the last but not least, is you get to perform all these mitzvot of Kedusha, Kaddish, the Nakdishach, Barechu, all these things that you can only recite with a minyan, you get to fulfill these mitzvot. That's why it's so important. And he says, V'ayena kaman sof sif katan tet. He says, this was the ways of the tzaddikim. HaTzaddikim daled, sif katan daled, HaTzaddikim, dehainu sheyetzayer ben nafsho tamid, ech shehu omed lifnei Hashem yitbarach. He should engrave in his soul constantly how he should plant himself, how he stands in front of God. Because God fills the space of the whole universe. וכתבו בשם הארי ז"ל שיצייר שם הוויה תמיד נגד עיניו בניקוד יראה כזה. The Ari HaKadosh writes, a person should always envision the actual name of Hashem, Yud Kei Vav Kei, spelled with the nekudot of the word yir'ah. Yir'ah. So the first yir'ah is a chirik, is a yud, then you have a shva, and then you have a kamatz. So the Yud Kei Vav Kei, just like it's spelled, the vowel spelled in yir'ah, should also spell the Yud Kei Vav Kei. You open up many sidurim, okay, you may see the good sidurim might have the actual name of Hashem written at the top. No, not this one, maybe I have it here. Many sidurim have the name of Hashem written at the top constantly. As you, okay, not this one. But I've seen it. They put the name Yud Kei Vav Kei. You've seen it, right? Again, to constantly have the name of God. Vezeu sod shiviti Hashem l'ditamid. This is what it means. This is the secret of shiviti Hashem l'ditamid. Vezet to'elet gadol le'inyan aliyah. And this is what leads a person to that fear. That great fear that we're looking for. Fear of God. Veyesh shehayu regilin mahmad zeh. We'll finish this sif katan. ויש היו רגילים מחמד זה לעשות מנורות של קלף מצוירים להניח בסידורים וכותבים בהם שיביתי השם. That's why you see many people, they have in their sidurs, now it's printed on paper, but some people have it on klaf, a shape of a menorah, okay, and they have their anav koach or they have their lamnatzeach, and on top it's written שיביתי השם נגדי תמיד. Right? Why do they do that? For that reason. Ben arba otiyot u'sharei shemon. You have other names here. You have other names, holy names of God. U'menorah kazeh hayta nikret b'shem shiviti. This menorah that we find in our sidurim has the name shiviti. והטעם הוא בכדי שיהיה נזכר שלא להשיח שיחה בטלה בתוך התפילה מאימת השם. You know why we see that? You know why we see the name Shiviti Hashem Nagdi Tamid? You know why we have the Yud Kei Vav Kei? You know why we see that menorah? So we don't start talking in shul. So that our words should constantly be that of tefillah due to the fear and reverence we have of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. If I see that, I won't talk to my friend next to me. V'kata b'sharei teshuvah b'shem tvuot shor shera'ui, turn the page 8, shera'ui le'ezor chai lebatel ha'minhag. He says, that Sharei Tshuva says we should get rid of this minhag, to have these clafs of menorah. He doesn't like this. Ki alpi harov enam meshamlim et ha'klaf kara'ui. He said many people, they don't take care of that menorah. That menorah is holy. and then they treat it. They leave it on the floor. They leave it in their bag. They throw their bag. And then tishtapechna berosh kol chutzot. He quotes a pasuk. It's like thrown away at the top of the... No. This is very holy. So he says, better not to even own these things. And not only that, sometimes you see, God forbid, the name of Hashem is erased. Overuse, you don't take care of it. So Mishnah Berurah wants to say, these menorot that are written on a klaf, that they hang in synagogue. You see some synagogues, they have like a big klaf, the menorah, lifnei ha'amud, either in front of the teva, tachat hatavla shezechuchit, or under this glass covering. It's all protected. She'en shach bazetam. If it's protected, we're not worried about it. You're not worried about erasing. You're not worried about people mistreating it. It's protected. Leit lanba. Ad kan leshono. But some guy who wants to put the menorah on a klaf, on the amud, on the teva, and there's no protection, people are rubbing their arms on it and touching it and smudging it, okay, and erasing names, they got a problem. He says, we got to protest. It's not right what they're doing. It could often come to erasing of Hashem's name. In fact, there's some people say that from this halakha, a person should avoid like tablecloths or challah covers that have like the kiddush written on it. And I've seen that. The whole kiddush written on the challah cover, and they cover it. And now the guy saying kiddush is perfect. I don't need a siddur. I look at my challah cover and I have the whole thing nice and big writing. But you take that challah cover, you throw it into the wash. Like, what are you doing? There's pesukim on there. I gotta clean it. They don't know. Now takes it, puts bleach on it, erases the whole thing. Who knows what happens? So you gotta avoid. That's not good. When you're washing, it could get erased.
Instead of Hashem's name, just like eight.
Hashem. Okay, so then it depends if there's any pesukim in there that could pose a problem. So this is something that we try avoiding. Okay, there's still more stuff to do in the Mishnah Berurah, but we've reached our time, so we're going to pause over here, and we'll continue this halakha next week. Okay, we're not finished halakha, and now we move on to the Gemara. Masechet Berachot. Again, there's a link there on the chat that you can follow. I think that link just has the text of the Gemara. But on your browser, if you actually click the Gemara, you'll be able to see Rashi. And let me get my notes here. Okay. So Masechet Berachot is the first Masechet in all of Shas, and the opening topic that is being discussed is the laws of Kriyat Shema at night. The whole Masechet in general deals with Kriyat Shema. It deals with Amidah. It deals with other types of Berachot, like Birkot Ne'anin, the Berachot that we say on food, Berachot that we say out of thanks, out of praise. It is the first, foremost, and arguably the most practical Masechet in all of Shas. No question, is Masechet Berachot. Besides for all these amazing laws and things that we're used to, there are wonderful stories and anecdotes that we're going to hopefully get to as time goes on. Okay. So this parak in particular, the first chapter of Masechet Berachot, deals with three main ideas. The times for Kriyat Shema, both evening and morning. The way that it's read, how a person could read the Kriyat Shema, and the brachot that come before and after the Kriyat Shema. So, what is the source of Kriyat Shema? Where do we get this? How do we know that we have to say Shema? So, pasuk says, "V'dibarta bam b'shoch becha uvkumecha." Shoch becha uvkumecha. When you go to sleep, and when you lie down, and when you get up, that is the source that we have to say Shema twice a day, once in the morning and once at night. And the topic of our Mishnah is this is not exactly so clear. When is it that I lie down? When is it that I wake up? And that's our opening Mishnah is going to speak about that. Okay, so let's begin without further ado. Opening Mishnah of Shisha Sidrei Mishnah of Shas. Me'ematai korin et Shema be'arvin. From when do we read the Shema in Arvin? Interesting language here. We have, first of all, this word korin. Korin is plural. It should say me'ematai kore. When there's a person, when you read, what's korin? So the Ritva says the reason why korin is written in plural as opposed to singular is because everybody has an obligation to read Shema Yisrael. Everybody has an obligation. For example, when we learn, one day we'll get to the Mishnah of Megillah, it says Megillah Nikret. The Megillah is read, singular, because Megillah, one person reads, and everybody listens, and you fulfill the mitzvah. By Shema, everybody has a chiyuv. Although the Mishnah Berurah writes that b'diavad you can fulfill the mitzvah by listening to somebody else, but lechatchila a person has to say the Shema on his own, and therefore the lashon that is used here is plural. Mimatai korin et Shema be'aravin. Arvin is also plural. Wait a second. How many nights are there? When do you say Shema? I thought there's only one night. Why is it 2 nights? There actually are 2 erevs. There's an erev that begins once the sun begins to set. Okay? That's called erev. And then there's the actual erev, which is the start of the night. In between those 2 erevs, we call ben ha'arbaim. You've heard that term of ben ha'arbaim, between the evenings, the first evening and the second evening. Okay? That is called ben ha'arbaim. And the Shema that we're going to read is after the second one. Okay? After both of them. So the question is, when does the time of obligation to read Shema begin? Every night. Says the Mishnah, Misha'a she'akohanim nichnasim le'echol bitrumatan. From the time that the Kohanim who were impure, and they went to go, the day that they became pure again, they went to go dip in the mikveh. After however long the period was of Tum'ah, they went to go dip in the mikveh at night. After they dipped in the mikveh, they can go and eat their terumah again. It's asur for a kohen to go eat terumah in a state of impurity. He can't. So he has to dip in the mikveh, and then at the moment that he's allowed to eat, that is his terumah, that is the time that you can begin to say Keriyat Shema at night, which is, our Chachamim tell us, is Tzet HaKochavim, which is the appearance of 3 stars, which is actually 3 medium-sized stars. We're not experts, to wait to what 3 medium-sized stars are, or 3 large stars, or 3 small stars. So the Chachamim write that the custom is to wait till 3 small stars. When you see 3 small stars, then you know for sure it's a time to say Keriyat Shema. Because that is the time where people begin to lie down to sleep. Beshoch becha, that's the time people begin to lie down. Aval hakore kodem a person who reads before that will not fulfill the mitzvah, because it's not the time to lie down and sleep when it's still light outside, when there's still sun. Okay, so I know when I can start saying the Shema. Now, when is the end time? When is the last time? I look at my clock. When is it too late to say the Shema? So we have 3 opinions in our Mishnah. The first opinion is Rabbi Eliezer, who says, Ad sof ha'ashmura harishona. Until the end of the first watch. The night is divided into 3 watches, 3 parts. And what is entailed in these parts, I'm not quite sure. But on a basic level, every mishmar, every watch, there's another group of angels in Shamayim that are singing praises to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. This is what's happening in the watches. So Rabbi Eliezer says, Rabbi Eliezer says that why is it that I have, if I take the night, I divide it by 3, why is it that I have up until the end of the first? Because this is the time where people fall asleep, the first third of the night. Okay, this is the time people fall asleep. People don't fall asleep much after that. They're already sleeping after that. But this is the time that people fall asleep. V'chachamim omrim, but the rabbis say, shezman ad chatzot, the time of Kriyah is until midnight. Midnight, but not 12 o'clock midnight. The middle of the night. You take the whole night, however long it is, you find the exact middle, because these are the time that people are lying down in bed. That's what the Chachamim say. Rabban Gamliel says, Ad sheya'aleh amud hashachar, until dawn. Amud hashachar is dawn, which basically says you have until the whole night. Okay, let's look at Rashi. I'm getting a feel for the crowd, and by all means, the people that are online, I know you're not going to speak up now, but come and tell me when you see me on whether you think the class is a little bit too deep. Should we go more inside in text? I figure we will do Gemara and Rashi for sure. Okay, maybe some Tosfot. Maybe I'll speak out some Tosfots, the ones that are important. If you feel that let's do all the Tosfots inside, or you want to do everything outside, whatever, then come and speak to me, and we'll talk about it. But let's look at Rashi. Rashi is found on the inner margin. There's two commentaries on the page of a Gemara. There's the one on the inner margin and the one on the outside margins. Rashi's on the inner ones. So that's what we're looking at. So, me'ematai korin et shema be'arvin misha she'kohanim nichnasim lechol bitrumatan. So when does a person say Shema at night? From the time that the Kohanim eat or enter to eat their terumah. So Rashi says Kohanim shenitmeu. We're talking about Kohanim that were impure. V'tavlu, and they went into the mikveh. They dipped in the mikveh. V'ha'eriv shimshan, and the sun now set. V'higia itam lechol bitrumah, and their time to eat terumah has arrived. That's when you start. Ad sof ha'ashmura harishona. Until the end of the first watch. This is the opinion of Rabbi Eliezer. He says until the end of the first watch. Rashi says, Shalish halayla. This is a third of the night. Kedebefarish b'Gemara, like will be explained in the Gemara later on the next page. Umisham ve'elach avar zeman. After that time, the time passed. It's over. According to Rabbi Eliezer, so if we had a perfect day, let's say we had a perfect day, 6 o'clock sunrise, 6 o'clock sunset, 12 o'clock midnight. From 6 to 9, assuming, let's say, 3 stars was at 6 o'clock, 9 o'clock, that's your end. After that, you're too late. Delo mikri tu zman shechiva, because it's no longer called a time of lying down and sleeping. Velo karinan be beshochbecha, and now we're not fulfilling the word beshochbecha. Again, the Torah tells us beshochbecha, when you lie down. We don't know what that means. Comes Rabbi Eliezer and says, what it means is the first 3 hours when people are actually lying down to sleep. And now, in order to fulfill beshochbecha, you have to read it within those first 3 hours. Umekame hachinami lav zman shechiva. But before that is not called zman shechiva. Now Rashi is going to say something now, which is a huge machloket between him and Tosfot. Something that I spoke about, I think it was on Rosh Hashanah before the end of the holiday when I spoke about the last time to say Kriyat Shema or praying Arvit early. I gave a whole shiur in that. But look what Rashi says here. He says that anything before this time is not called Zman Shechiva. Lefichach, hakore kodem lachen lo yatsa yedei chovato. Therefore, a person who reads before this time, he's not fulfilling his obligation. Kind of makes sense. If nighttime is at 6 o'clock, then if I read Shema at 5 o'clock, I'm not fulfilling anything. I'm not fulfilling mitzvah. Im ken, so he asks, Im ken, lama korin ota bebet haKnesset? So why are there synagogues that are reading Shema in Arvit, okay, and it's still light outside? Rashi lived in France. France, the nights in the summertime can go very late, okay? People are not going to stay up, so they're praying Arvit at 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock, it's still light outside. And they're saying Shema, and he's saying, so why are people doing this? If they're not fulfilling their mitzvah, why are they praying Shema early? We do this in the summertime, yeah? We say Arvit over here. So why is it? He says, Kedei la'amod batfilah mitoch divrei Torah. Very simple. We want to begin our tefillah through words of Torah. He's agreeing. You're not fulfilling a mitzvah. All you're doing is connecting tefillah with words of Torah. You're reading the Chumash. You're taking the parasha of Shema Yisrael, and that's what you're doing. But you're not actually fulfilling a mitzvah. And this was learned Babraita Berachot Yerushalmi. Ufichach, therefore, chova alenu likrota mi shetechshach. Therefore, you have to read again when it gets dark. If you're one of those people that reads Shema before it gets dark at night, you would have to read it again one more time when it gets dark. Then he gives a chidush. Ubikriyat parasha rishona she'adam koreh al mitato yatsa. But if a person reads the first paragraph of Shema, when he sleeps, okay, he fulfills his obligation. The Kriyat Shema Lamita. So this is Rashi. So I want to read with you Tosfot. I know it's long, but it's an unbelievable Tosfot. Okay, and that will take us to the end. We'll stop after the Tosfot. So look at Tosfot's on the outer margin, and he asks some really strong questions on Rashi, and has a whole different way of looking at this. So he says, again, we're looking at the outer margin. Again, if you're online, you can click the commentary, and then you'll find Tosfot over there. The first one, Mematai Korin. Pirush Rashi, he quotes Rashi. He always quotes Rashi out of respect. Remember, Rashi was Tosfot's grandfather. He says, Ve'anan hechi karina mi be'od yom. He said, Rashi says, and how can we read Shema during the day? Ve'anu mamtin tzeta kochavim, and we don't wait till tzeta kochavim. Kin nefarish b'gamara. Aken pirush Rashi. Therefore, Rashi explains shekriyat Shema shel amita ikar. So he says, when you go to sleep, you're fulfilling the mitzvah. That's your mitzvah Shema. Ve'hu nachar tzeta kochavim, and this is after tzeta kochavim. Ve'hachi ita b'Yerushalmi, and this is written in the Yerushalmi. Im kara kodem lachen lo yatsa. Okay? And if your person reads before it gets dark, he doesn't fulfill the obligation. Ve'im ken lama anu mitpalelin kriyat shema bebet haKnesset? If so, why am I saying kriyat shema at synagogue? Kedei la'amod b'tfilah mitoch divrei Torah. Like we said, to connect the tfilah with words of Torah. See, all he's done right now is quoted his grandfather. He quoted Rashi. Now he begins with the attacks. Tema lepirusho. His perush, it's a wonder to me. The world, or what he's saying, people read Kriyat Shema at night in their bed. They're only reading the first paragraph. That's a custom of the Ashkenazim. What happened to the other two? He has to read 3 parashiyot, right? He has to read Ve'afta, he has to read Vayayim Shamoah, and he has to read Sisit. But you're not doing that only by reading the first one. So Rashi, you're telling me that you're fulfilling the obligation by saying the Shema at night by your bed, but you're only reading 1 paragraph. Question 1. Ve'od kashe. Another question. What happened to the Berachot? What happened to Asher Bidvo? And Ma'ariv Aravim? And Ve'emuna? And Hakivenu? These are Berachot that you have to say. You're not saying those blessings when you're saying that at night. Are you saying Asher Bidvaro when you say Kriyat Shema? You're not saying Asher Bidvaro. That's question 2. De'ot Kriyat Shema samuch lamita. That Shema that we say at night, you know why we say Shema at night? It's to protect us from the demons. Night is a very serious, scary time. So we say Kriyat Shema for protection, not to fulfill the mitzvah. Later on we're going to say, if you're a Talmid Chacham and you're already protected because you learned so much Torah, you don't even need to say this. Although we don't hold that, everyone says Kriyat Shema. Another problem. We hold like Rabbi Yoshua ben Levi that says that Shachrit should be in between Be'emsa, in between the 2 Shemas, in between the Shema of the morning and in between the Shema of the night, you have the Tfilat Shachrit and Mincha. Ben Kriyat Shema, Ben Kriyat Shema Shel Shachrit, Ben Kriyat Shema Shel Arvit. Ve'ana Kamalan Rabbi Yochanan, De'amar Lekaman Ezu Ben Ha'olam Haba, Ze HaSomer Geula Ve'Shavit Le'Tfilah. Okay, so now he's got his questions. Again, why not read all 3 at night, all 3 parashiyot? Where are their berachot? And really, the nighttime Kriyat Shema is only for protection. Lachen pirush Rabbeinu Tam. This is his own. This he argues with Rashi. The aderaba, the opposite. Kriyat Shema shel bet haKnesset eikar. Boom. The Kriyat Shema in shul is the most important one, even though it's done during the day, even though it's still not dark. This is what I quoted in that Shiur, quoted Rabbeinu Tam. Your Shema during the day is fine. Ve'im Tomar. Remember Ve'im Tomar? I told you Ve'im Tomar is a question. Ve'im Tomar. He'achanu korin kokach mi be'od yom. But how can I say Shema while it's still day? How am I supposed to say Shema while it's still day? How do I fulfill that? Be'shor becha. Ve'yesh lomar. De'kay malam ke Rabbi Yehuda. We hold like Rabbi Yehuda. De'amar be'perek tfilat ha'shachar dizman tfilat mincha plag mincha. We're going to learn hopefully in the 4th perek that there's an argument when the last time to say mincha is. The Tana Kama holds you have until sunset, which is what we do. And then Rabbi Yehuda holds until Plaga Mincha, which is an hour and a quarter before sunset. So therefore, the people that are saying Shema during Arvit while it's still day hold that Rabbi Yehuda is correct. And it's still light outside. You finish Shema, your last Shema is over, but it's still light outside. You can still say Shema, and that's considered dark to Rabbi Yehuda. 10.75 hours after sunrise. And the moment, this is what we do in the summertime, right? Here in the summertime in Toronto, okay? We pray Mincha just before Plag Mincha. That officially marks the end of the day, and then we start Arvit. That's the beginning of the night. We're saying Shema at night, even though the sun's still out. But according to Rabbeinu Tam, you're good. ואם תאמר, האחנו מתפללים תפילת מנחה סמוך לחשיכה, ואפילו לאחר פלג מנחה, and if you ask, how can we say tefillah, how can we pray mincha close to nightfall, even after plag mincha? Yesh lomar, זה כמובן כרבנן. And we do the other way, we're following the Rabbanan. דאמרי זמן תפילה מנחה עד הערב. So he holds that depending on how you're holding, and we do both over here. In the summertime, we follow like Rabbi Yehuda, that we do mincha before plag, and in the winter time, like we're doing now, we follow like the Rabbanan that we do mincha before shkia, before sunset. So that's his answer. His answer is that the reason that we fulfill Kriyat Shema during the day because we follow Rabbi Yehuda, because that's his end time of mincha, and he's going to say later on that we also follow the other Tanaim, not like our Mishnah. There are other Tanaim who hold that Shema can be said before. The Rosh writes that B'shat Hadchak we can follow Tosafot here if people are going to leave synagogue. This is something that I think they were faced with in many countries in the north, where you couldn't get people to come back to shul at 11 o'clock at night when the sun went down, when it was actually night. So you only got them there for mincha. So you say Shema then, and according to Tosfot, you would fulfill the mitzvah. According to Rashi, however, you would have to repeat the mitzvah, the Shema again at night to fulfill the mitzvah properly. And that is the machloket between Rashi and Tosfot. Okay. We're going to end here. Thank you, everyone, for joining, and we hope to see you next Wednesday. Have a wonderful night.